The girl was starving, so she secretly hid a bag of bread under her clothes. She planned to sneak out of the store before the manager noticed, but before she could get away, the manager stopped her. He took her to his office and told her to call her parents. The girl kept her head down. She refused to give them her name. She also refused to contact her parents. Seeing how young she was, the manager's wife decided to forgive her. She even gave her the bread. The girl walked out of the store with the bread. A little girl was waiting outside. The girl handed the bread to her younger sister. Just like her, the little girl hadn't eaten all day. The truth was, she wasn't refusing to call their parents. She simply had no idea where her mom and dad were. She took her sister home, except it wasn't really a home. It was a van parked under a bridge. Not long ago, their mother had suddenly disappeared. Their father gave up the apartment they were renting and brought the girls to this city to look for her. But a few days earlier, their father parked the van under the bridge. Then he left without saying a word, and he never came back. After their father disappeared, Annie and her sister were left living under the bridge. 4 days, Annie took care of her sister while waiting for their father to return. There was nowhere to wash up under the bridge, so she took her sister to a park to wash their hair, but the tap water was freezing. Her little sister would always scream from the cold. At night, they slept inside the van to distract her sister from the hunger. Annie would smile and tell her fairy tales. During those days under the bridge, Annie noticed two boys passing by all the time. One of them always stared at the girls, but he never came any closer. One day, Annie went out looking for food. When her sister woke up, Annie was gone. The little girl stood under the bridge, crying and calling for her sister. The two boys happened to see her. They walked over, but they had no idea what to do with a crying little girl. Luckily, Annie came back just then. Her sister immediately stopped crying and ran into her arms. Annie hadn't found any food, which meant the two sisters would have to go hungry again that night. Maybe the boys had heard her sister saying she was hungry before Annie left. That evening, the two boys came to the bridge on their own. They brought an entire box of chicken legs. Annie was nervous. She didn't dare accept food from strangers, but her little sister grabbed the chicken without hesitation. At least they had dinner that night. What Annie didn't know was that Noah had prepared the food specifically for them. Unlike Annie and her sister, Noah had a warm home. His parents were both still young, and he had a little sister who had just started school. His parents ran a small restaurant by the roadside. They weren't rich, but they had enough to get by. Noah was always followed by a tall, strong boy named Tommy. They were classmates and friends. Tommy lived with his divorced mother, but his mom often stayed away from home for days at a time. Noah knew what Tommy was going through, so he often brought Tommy home for dinner, and Noah's parents never complained. They always made an extra meal for Tommy. The place where Annie and her sister lived was right along the boys' route home from school. Noah had quietly watched the girls for several days. He realized they had no parents looking after them, so that night at dinner, he lied and told his mom he was still hungry. He asked her to make one more serving. Then he secretly packed the chicken legs his mom had made. He also lied and said he needed to walk Tommy home. After telling all those lies, Noah had Tommy deliver the chicken to the two sisters. The next day, Noah and his sister headed to school. On the way, they saw the girl under the bridge again. Noah knew she was going out to look for food. He took one quick look from a distance. Then he walked away with his sister. At lunchtime, Noah thought about the girl living under the bridge. He saved the bread from his meal and quietly put it in a plastic bag. After school, he ran all the way back. He wanted to give the bread to the girl, but when Noah arrived, he saw that the sisters were in trouble. A group of troublemakers had found the van. They forced the sisters out. They treated the van like it was abandoned and started messing around inside. Annie and her sister could only watch from a distance. They were too weak to fight back. The boys showed no sign of stopping, so Annie had no choice but to take her sister and leave for the time being. As they walked away, her sister said she was hungry. Then she asked when their dad was coming back. Annie didn't answer. She just held her sister's hand and kept walking. Noah followed them for a while. Then he had Tommy give them the bread. The moment Annie took it, she and Noah looked directly at each other for the first time. Noah saw the desperation and helplessness in her eyes, and he made a bold decision. He decided to take the girls somewhere they could get a real meal. That place was none other than his family's restaurant. He brought the two sisters home. Then he asked his mom to make them something to eat. Noah's mother didn't know who they were, but she was kind enough to make a whole table full of food for them. Annie and her sister devoured the meal. It had been a long time since they had eaten like this. Then Noah's mom asked, "Why aren't you going home? Won't your family be worried about you?" Those questions left Annie silent. She didn't know how to answer. She didn't want to admit that she no longer had a home, and she couldn't bring herself to believe that she had already lost her family. Noah's mom seemed to realize how uncomfortable she was, so she didn't ask any more questions. After dinner, Annie said goodbye to Noah and his family. Then she took her sister back under the bridge. When they returned to the van, it was a complete mess. The troublemakers had taken all of their belongings, and their father still hadn't come back. That night, heavy rain began to fall, but Annie couldn't sleep. She was terrified that her dad might never come back. She had no idea what she was supposed to do with her life. The more she thought about it, the more she broke down. Then she opened the van door and ran outside. She ran straight into the rain alone. She ran without knowing where she was going. Rain poured down from the sky, but it couldn't wash away her sadness and helplessness. The next afternoon, Annie and her sister were wandering nearby. They ran into the two boys again as they were heading home from school. Noah asked why they were down by by the river. Her little sister said they were looking for rainbow clouds. According to the story, if you made a wish to a rainbow cloud, any wish could come true. If they could find one, their mom and dad would come back. Her sister began telling them the story of the rainbow clouds. As Annie listened, she fell into her own memories. Back then, she still had her whole family. Both of her parents were there with the girls. The family of 4 had gone to the beach for a vacation. Out on the horizon, they saw rainbow clouds in the sky. The clouds came in all kinds of colors. It was the most beautiful thing the sisters had ever seen, and the days when their parents were still with them became the warmest memories they had. Now, the sisters wanted to find the rainbow clouds. They hoped the clouds could bring their parents back. That night, Noah brought Annie and her sister back to the restaurant again. His mom made plenty of food for them. She even prepared a huge bowl of meatballs. Noah's mom had already figured out that the girls had no one taking care of them, but she didn't want to embarrass them by saying it out loud. Instead, she told Annie, "Whenever you're hungry, you can come here and eat." The next day, Noah and Tommy skipped school. They wanted to help Annie and her sister make their wish come true, so the boys decided to search for the rainbow clouds with them. They went to several places with water, but they couldn't find the rainbow clouds anywhere. The little girl refused to give up. She said they could see rainbow clouds if they went to the beach. She also firmly believed that if they went to the beach, their parents would come back to them. Eventually, Noah brought the girls back to the restaurant again. His mom wasn't happy that Noah had skipped school, but she still took the 2 sisters in. That night, Annie and her sister finally got to take a hot shower. Their clothes had started to smell, so Noah's mom bought them new pajamas. There were only 2 bedrooms, so all 5 kids slept together in one room. Late that night, Annie woke up to the sound of voices. Noah's parents were arguing outside. They were discussing whether they should take Annie and her sister in, but they weren't wealthy. They simply couldn't afford to raise 2 more children. That left them with only one real option. They might have to send the girls into foster care. Annie quietly listened to the adults talking. Deep down, she had already accepted the outcome. What she didn't know was that Noah was lying nearby, listening too, and by then, he had already made a decision that would completely change Annie and her sister's lives.